Hi guys, this is Frenchie, and today I want to share with you my honest opinion towards the new micro color panel that has been announced in April 2024 by Blackmagic. It's been 3 weeks that I am using it on different projects, but also on the go. I won't make a review of the micro color panel on this channel. I will only do an experience feedback. For the story, Blackmagic sent me a micro color panel in French, and I've done this review of this micro color panel on my French YouTube channel. We'll only just go straight to the point of how was my experience with it. For those who don't know me, I'm a professional colorist and I am a freelancer too. When clients are contacting me, most of the time I will go to post houses to make my grade in front of them. So my choice when I started color grading went toward the micro panel because at that time that was the model that was the most portable compared to the other models of panel. So this at that time was the model that actually was the most portable because compared to the mini panel, it doesn't have the screens over here, so then it is actually less bigger. So at one moment in my career, I asked myself the question of should I change my micro panel to the mini panel, because I was finding that I was very dependent on my mouse but also on my keyboard. The thing is, I stopped having this idea pretty fast because as I was moving to post houses quite often, I didn't want to have the bulkiness of the mini panel, and also the price turned me down quite quickly. So now that you have the full picture of my adventure with color panels, I'm gonna share with you my impression on the micro color panel. I'm gonna review the micro color panel based on few points that actually matters. I'm gonna review it on the aspect, I'm gonna review it on the connectivity, I'm gonna review it on the buttons, I'm gonna review it on the responsiveness, I'm gonna review it on the iPad function, and I'm gonna review it on the price. For each category, I'm gonna just tell you how much I am satisfied with the micro color panel to answer to this need, and what I didn't like about the micro color panel. At the end of the video, we're gonna do an average of my overall satisfaction, and I hope that this average will help you to have a better understanding of what is the micro color panel, and also if it could answer your needs too. Okay, so first, the micro color panel in terms of aspect is lighter than the old micro panel. So if you can see, the main material is plastic, and it is then very easy to carry it around as it's very light. So the old micro panel that you can see here is 3.5 kilograms, and the new micro panel is just 1.18 kilograms. So it is a pretty significant drop of weight, and if you see, like, I can just carry it from one hand. Also, the new micro color panel is tinier than its predecessor. Its size is 36 cm width, 90 cm depth, and 4 cm height. Whereas the micro panel is 42 cm width, 26 cm depth, and 7.5 cm height. Thanks to its drop of weight and its tinier size, it becomes way more easier actually to commute with it. And for me, it is a game changer because when I'm carrying my equipment around, my equipment is then lighter. The only downside I would point out by the fact that we reduce the size of the micro color panel is actually that the micro color panel has tinier rings than its predecessor, which actually for me was at first a bit uncomfortable when I transitioned from the old micro panel to the new micro color panel, but you get over it very quickly. So for me, for the fact that you have something lighter, tinier, and also that still look professional, I would say that I'm 98% satisfied on the aspect. I just dropped some points only because the rings are a bit tinier than the old micro panel, but that's still fine. So now let's talk about the connectivity. My greatest surprise was to see that the micro color panel was provided with a USB-C to USB-C cable. And when I opened the box, I was like, yes, finally. As a Mac Studio user, I only have 2 USB-A ports and 6 USB-C ports. When I was with my old micro panel, the old micro panel was provided with a USB-C to USB-A cable. I always had to use an adapter or a splitter because I was always having my USB-A ports taken by more important things. The fact that we are removing this intermediate is making me feel pretty great, because then I'm just thinking that there is no intermediate anymore in my flow of information between my micro color panel and my Mac Studio, which I really like. So this is a big win for me. The big update actually that we are having with this micro color panel is that this micro color panel has a battery, and you know why? It's because you can connect your micro color panel via Bluetooth to other devices that can handle Davinci Resolve. So it feels pretty good actually to say to yourself that you can take your laptop and your micro color panel. Even if you don't have any cable, you can connect your micro color panel with your laptop. If you're on holiday and you forgot your cable, then you can color grade. So you don't have any excuse anymore to not work. Also, because it's Bluetooth, you can use it on an iPad. So I really like this feature because it really permits you more flexibility and also give you more choices on how to connect your micro color panel. So because I am extremely happy with the upgrades that this new micro color panel has, I would say that I'm 100% satisfied because it gives me more flexibility, and also it can just make for the mistake if, for example, I forget about my cable and I am in front of a client. To be clear, it never happens. It's just in the 1% chance it happens, then I'm covered. Okay, so now let's tackle a big thing in the new micro color panel, which are the buttons. So there are more buttons in the micro color panel than the macro panel. The micro panel has 18 buttons and the micro color panel has 37 buttons. So all the original functions of the micro panel are in this new micro color panel. The only difference that you can find is that you won't have dedicated buttons for reset your RGB levels and all for each primary wheel. If you want to reset your RGB or your level, then you will have to couple your shift keys with the reset. Also, another change, there is no button just dedicated to go to the log wheels that you can have on your old micro panel. So for this, you just need to press shift up and go to offset. By the way, I would have loved a button to go to my HDR wheels, but you know, that's okay. I can swallow my pain. Thanks to the 37 buttons that you have in the new micro color panel, you can access to different functionality from here. For example, you can add a node, you can add a window, you can add keyframes, but also you can toggle from highlight mode or not, from your qualifier or not, etc, etc. But with the shift key, all the functionalities become exponential, because almost for each button you are having 2 or 3 functionalities more, because then you can use the shift up and the button, the shift down and the button, but also just the button by itself. It makes your micro color panel becomes a real control center that makes you less dependent on your mouse and on your keyboard. For me, it is a real huge update, and that gives me a lot of value, because when I wanted to change my old micro panel to, for example, a mini panel, I was looking for something like this, where you could have just all the functions on your panel and don't be really dependent on your keyboard and your mouse. And what is great with the micro color panel is that most of the time my hand can stay on the micro color panel and I can control most of my things within my micro color panel. I find that the downside of it, with all this function that you have in the buttons but also with the shift keys, is that it becomes really confusing really fast, and you will need to have your manual guide next to you all the time. So I spent quite some time to have the manual guide next to me opened you know, like this, and trying to verify each button, what is their function, what is the effect of the shift keys on these buttons, because there is no indication on the panel itself to tell you like what is the effect of the shift key plus the button. You will have to just refer to this manual, so please don't throw it. So I would say for this button category, I am 90% satisfied. You are having so many functionalities possible within this micro color panel, with more functionalities thanks to the shift keys and the buttons coupled together. The only downside that I have is that there is so many functionalities that actually you really need to study the manual guide first and to get used to it. You need a bit of time to adapt. Now we're going to talk about the responsiveness. So the responsiveness on this micro color panel was something I had to adapt to. The rings and the trackball feel less sensitive than the micro panel. It feels that I had to turn further my rings and further my trackball to have the same result when I was just pushing a tiny bit my ring and pushing a tiny bit my trackball on my old micro panel. It was a bit bothering for me at the beginning because I was feeling really lost when I was seeing this responsiveness, but now I'm a bit more moderate about this comment because I got over it. Also, because of the new functions, I really like to control the wipe through my panel, the windows through my panel, but because the wheels and the trackballs are a bit less sensitive than the old micro panel, I feel that I need to do a lot of movement to actually move around my window or wipe my steel over my clip, etc, etc. So yeah, it feels a bit sticky, but I still feel that controlling everything through the micro color panel is still faster and more comfortable than the keyboard and the mouse. So in terms of the responsiveness, I would say that I am 70% satisfied. I find the panel good in terms of response. I just feel that at first, and my first impression, I didn't really like the stickiness and the fact that you needed to go way further with your rings, but now I feel better about this. So I would say 70% is what I am around. So now we're gonna just have a quick one on the iPad. I needed actually to talk about this because it was actually catered for iPad users. I'm not someone that use Davinci Resolve on the iPad, so I don't have a lot of experience to share with you. I did one test with an iPad and that was pretty good. I felt that it was pretty comfortable to grade with it. What I really want to point out with this category, which is the iPad category, is that because this micro color panel was catered for iPad users, it incentivized Blackmagic Design to create a new micro color panel that would have a lot of functionalities inside the panel and then make us less dependent on the keyboard and the mouse, kind of like the mini panel. So for this, thank God they created a product that was catered for iPad users, because we are getting closer to the mini panel, which I really appreciate. Something I have to point out that also was catered for iPad users and that I don't really appreciate is one button dedicated for auto color. My real question with this button is that even if you are an iPad user, why would you buy a panel that has auto color in it? So I don't know, maybe I'm not the target and that's why I'm not understanding this. But what is great is that you can transform the auto color button into copy paste your grade one clip before with shift down auto color, or copy paste your grade from 2 clips before with shift up auto color. So then for the iPad features, I would say that I am 80% satisfied because I'm a bit indifferent with the iPad usage. I used it to test it out, but I'm a bit indifferent with it because I don't use it that much. The only thing that I really appreciate from Blackmagic Design is that they got incentivized to make us a panel that would bring the both world of color grading professionals but also prosumers that are grading on iPad, and And the only downside for me is because of this merge of accessibility for the regular guy and professional colorist, then we have a button that is auto color. So for me, that's a real big downside, because this button could have been another function, but that's okay. So now we are going to talk about the price. So I am sure you know about this, but the micro color panel has been announced as $509. It is a significant drop of price from its predecessor that was actually at $859. So for a drop of price of $350, you have a panel that has more functionalities in it, that is lighter, that also is tinier, more portable, that has Bluetooth, that has USB-C to USB-C, that will make you less dependent on your keyboard, and that is actually accessible to work with iPad. For me, it is really worth it. The only downside of it is that the new micro color panel is not provided with a studio license. But my real take on this, I don't really mind. You know why? Because when I bought my micro panel at that time, I'm an old person, there was no studio license also with my micro panel. So you know, the studio license, I saw it and I paid this micro panel super expensive. Because I was in another country than the US, it was more than $859. It was something around like $900, $1,000. Technically, for me, I would go towards this, because you are having more functionalities than your old micro panel, and it costs, I mean, for my case, almost half the price. And not having the studio license, I don't really mind. I told you, this is an experience feedback. It's only based on my feelings. Then for me, in terms of price, this is extremely good. And even like for the downside, it doesn't drop any way in terms of points for me. This is 100% for the price, really. So in average, we are around 90% satisfied. To be honest, you are getting a lot of value for the price you pay. It's definitely a step up from the old micro panel. It really makes color grading easier, faster, and more accessible. It's been 3 weeks that I'm not using my old micro panel, and honestly, I don't really miss it. I feel so much more comfortable with this new micro color panel during my work, but also when I'm moving around to go to post houses. Of course, this micro color panel has some downsides, but the upgrades that you have in the features and the upgrades that you have with the hardware outweigh them by far. It is totally worth it, and I'm happy I changed my gear. Thank you for watching the video, guys. Let me know what you think about this new micro color panel in the comments. I hope the video helped you to understand what is the micro color panel, and also if you should buy it or not. That was Frenchie color grading. See you.